Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to Year 9 HP. My first question, how was everyone's day? Good. Yes, did anyone do anything exciting? Has anyone played netball before?
Yes.
Okay, we're not playing netball. Has anyone played N-ball before?
Yes.
We're not doing that either, okay? We're doing ultimate frisbee. Has anyone heard of it before?
Yes.
Yes? So what do we think is involved in ultimate frisbee?
Frisbee.
Perfect. There's going to be two teams as well, okay? The two teams aim to score in an end zone, kind of like dodgeball and N-ball, but instead obviously we're using a frisbee. Rules are very simple. You are 2 meters away from the person with the frisbee. You have to stay inside the white lines. And to score, you just need to throw the frisbee over the end zone, which is these blue markers. You cannot move with the frisbee, and I will show you in a short second the two ways that you can throw the frisbee. But first of all, I just want to go through some safety. As you can see, there's these poles here with no post pads. We want to stay away. If we think we're running too hard, just stop. Posts on the ground there, don't want to trip over them and fall into the net. The net also has a metal wire that is very sturdy, so you will trip over that and get caught up in the net. We're going to play rock, paper, scissors against your partner. Just wait. If you lose, you join a conga line behind your partner. The winner then versus another conga line. Whoever wins that joins onto the back, okay? We should be left with two lines at the end. I'm going to set up the field. I want to see how you guys go with that. Is there any questions? No? All right, off you go. Can Will's team first stand over there and get a bid? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Thank you. All right. So, obviously, these two things look a bit different, don't they? Yes? This is very easy to throw. Everyone knows how to throw a ball, right? You just peg it. You try and peg this, that doesn't really work, right? So we need a frisbee technique. Does anyone know what the technique to throw a frisbee is? Pistol grip. So everyone put a pistol up with their fingers. Thumb goes on the edge of the frisbee. Pointer finger on the edge, thumb on top. Then we load up through our wrist and flick with our wrist to throw it. Okay, so if I want to throw, flick. And that's going to go accurate. Yep. Set a challenge here. Can we go around the circle with the frisbee without it dropping? Do you reckon we got it? We're going to go. Just throw it to the next person. Are there any questions? End zones. You must catch it in the end zone. No moving. And 1 meter away from the person with the frisbee. You drop it, turn over. All right. Who wants to start with it? All right, go. All right, so it's great. I'm seeing a lot of really good throws. They're going to our targets, but our targets kind of have feet for hands right now. We're dropping it everywhere, okay? Now, when we catch a ball, right, we throw it up, we catch it on our chest. So I understand that's what a lot of us are doing. We're trying to catch this on our chest. What do you think the best way to catch a flat disc is? Yes, all right, so we can snap it out of the air. Add one more rule in. You have to have 4 of your players at all time on either side of the halfway line. 4 players from each team on either side of the halfway line. Oh, crocodiles, crocodiles. Pause there. You now need 1 player from each team in each end zone. They're the only players that can score. What set of rules felt the best? At the start, when anyone could go anywhere they wanted? In the middle, where you needed 4 on each side? Or at the end there, where you could only have 1 person in each end zone scoring?
At the start,
Yup. So you could find the overlaps, whereas everyone was kind of marked? Yeah, okay. And I thought it looked better from the sideline when there was 4 in each, because you guys all had a bit more space. You were still working like there was more. Some people came up to the halfway line to catch. Hard to defend when no one can be in front of you on the other team. So you guys looked really good when you were all spaced out. What I would like to see next lesson when we move into when we move into basketball, is I want to see that spacing. Okay, because when we get crowded around the ball, it's not going to help us. Really important in any court game, in any game really. Have you ever seen a rugby league team that plays in a 10-meter space? No, they usually spread out over 25, 30 meters, yeah?
To begin this session, I used rapport building questions such as asking students how their day was and whether they had played netball or endball before. This created a positive and inclusive classroom environment and linked to their prior knowledge. Research shows that connecting with students' lived experiences supports engagement and motivation. Establishing this connection early also reduced student anxiety, which is particularly important in physical education contexts, where some students may lack confidence in their abilities. I used clear and concise verbal instructions supported by non-verbal strategies, such as pointing out hazards on the court, using hand gestures to emphasize spacing, and demonstrating correct frisbee technique while verbally explaining. Demonstrations align with Rosenshine's principles of explicit instruction, which emphasize modeling before independent practice. By showing rather than only telling, I minimized confusion and reduced the likelihood of misconceptions, such as attempting to throw the frisbee like a ball instead of using the correct flat release demonstrated. A major focus in my communication was safety. Before beginning play, I highlighted potential risks on the court, such as slippery surfaces or collisions in confined spaces. I explicitly reminded students to keep their eyes up when moving and watch out for the poles without post pads and the netball poles on the ground. This aligns with Queensland Department of Education's duty of care and risk management requirements, which state that teachers must identify foreseeable risks, take reasonable precautions, and ensure that students are supervised in safe learning environments. Embedding these reminders into my instructions ensured that learning occurred within a framework of care and responsibility. This approach is also consistent with the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, particularly Standard 4, which emphasises the need to create and maintain safe learning environments. By weaving safety expectations into every stage of instruction, I supported students' development of personal and social capability as outlined in the Australian curriculum for health and physical education. Purposeful questioning was embedded throughout the lesson. For example, I asked students to recall safety risks, identify which version of the game worked best, and reflect on why spacing improved play. These questions encourage both lower order recall and higher order thinking, supporting Bloom's taxonomy progression. They also provided opportunities for students to take ownership of their learning by identifying strategies for successful play rather than being told what to do. In terms of resources, the frisbee itself acted as a hands-on learning tool, while the court layout supported spatial awareness and numeracy by encouraging the students to consider the court into halves and zones. I also used analogies like linking space in Ultimate Frisbee to the NRL and basketball to strengthen understanding through familiar contexts. This approach is supported by Vygotski's concept of scaffolding, where new knowledge is built on existing schema. I also made an on-the-spot adjustments in response to students' needs. For instance, when I noticed students struggling with catching, I paused the game, brought everyone in together, provided a clear demonstration of how to catch a frisbee, and allowed time for some skill rehearsal. This responsive teaching reflects formative assessment in action, which Black and William highlight as central to improving learning outcomes. Importantly, these pauses also acted as safety checkpoints, allowing students to reset and re-engage without fatigue or frustration leading to unsafe play. This aligns with the Queensland Department of Education's requirement for ongoing monitoring of student well-being and risk throughout physical activity. In summary, my communication strategies, rapport building, clear explanations, purposeful questioning, demonstrations, analogies, and continuous reinforcement of safety standards were deliberately chosen to engage diverse learners and ensure clarity. They align with curriculum requirements in health and physical education, particularly developing fundamental movement skills and strategies for creating space in games. The resources support both skill development and conceptual understanding, which my explicit emphasis on safety linked directly to duty of care and departmental requirements for risk management in PE. This combination made the activity not only engaging and accessible, but also safe, inclusive, and professionally responsible. I will now talk about how I can improve my session to better support the learning needs of diverse learners. One key area I talked about was safety. While I identified hazards such as unpadded poles and wires, I could strengthen my practice by explicitly linking these checks to curriculum activity risk management guidelines from the Queensland Department of Education. By embedding this into my instructions, I can ensure that the students, particularly those with a disability or anxiety, feel secure and know exactly how to navigate the space safely. For students with disability, I realize I need to provide more scaffolding. For example, I could break the frisbee throwing skills down into smaller steps, or provide adaptive equipment such as a softer or larger frisbee that is easier to grip and catch. I might also need to slow the pace of gameplay or include structured practice stations before moving into a full game to allow comfortable development of skills. These adjustments would help reduce barriers and are consistent with Vygotsky's idea of the zone of proximal development, where learners need support before they can master skills independently. For EALD learners, I relied heavily on demonstrations in my first video. But on reflection, I should plan more deliberate supports. This could include pairing visual instructions with keywords written on the whiteboard near the wall, or buddying EALD learners with peers who can clarify instructions. Gay reminds us that culturally responsive pedagogy means using multiple entry points so students from different backgrounds can make sense of learning. Adding bilingual visuals or learning terms to everyday examples would help reduce cognitive load. Students from low socioeconomic backgrounds also need to be considered. While Ultimate Frisbee already requires minimal resources, I could be more intentional about choosing games that avoid any hidden costs or assumed prior experiences. For example, I should not assume that all students have watched or played organized team sports like NRL or basketball or experienced netball. Instead, I could explain spacing and teamwork using playground examples or body shapes, making the concepts more universally accessible. This would align with universal design for learning, which encourages designing lessons that are equitable from the outset. Another area of adjustment is literacy and numeracy. I use terms like end zone and possession during my instructions, but I should have been more deliberate in reinforcing my vocabulary. Writing these terms on the board and revisiting them throughout the lesson would strengthen literacy. Numeracy could also be made more explicit by integrating counting, spacing, and positional awareness, such as asking students to check that exactly 4 players are on each side of the court. These small, deliberate strategies would help ensure that the literacy and numeracy demands are met, particularly for EALD and disability students. Reflecting on my gameplay modifications, I can also see where I went wrong. For example, I added one rule that players must remain in each end zone, but this reduced engagement and flow. On reflection, I need to strike a better balance between introducing structure and preserving enjoyment. Schulman's concept of pedagogical content knowledge reminds me that rules and adjustments need to serve learning goals, not simply control behavior. In future, I would co-construct rules with the students so that modifications feel fair and connected to their own ideas of what makes the game enjoyable and meaningful. Finally, I recognize that I need to better differentiate for ability levels. While I provided demonstrations, I didn't formally plan tiered activities. Tomlinson's differentiation framework suggests that I could have designed multiple pathways, such as easier catching drills for beginners and advanced challenges like time passes for more skilled students. Planning these in advance will ensure that every learner is appropriately challenged without anyone being left behind. In summary, my reflection shows that I need to be more systematic in planning adjustments for diverse learners. This includes stronger attention to safety standards, scaffolds for students with disability, multimodal supports for EALD learners, resource choices that consider socioeconomic equity, deliberate integration of literacy and numeracy, and planned differentiation for a range of abilities. These adjustments align with the Australian Curriculum for Health and Physical Education, which prioritises inclusivity, movement skills, and safe participation, and with the ATSL standards that call on teachers to know their learners, differentiate teaching, and create safe and supportive environments. Moving forward, I will plan these adjustments into my lessons rather than relying on in-the-moment decisions. This process has shown me that inclusive practice is not just reactive. It needs to be proactively designed into teaching so that all learners can succeed.